Hello American Patriots, Douglas Ducote here. This video is not just for Americans, but for those all over planet Earth. I want to take a moment to step out of politics and discuss a topic that actually I believe would be receiving a lot more news coverage if it wouldn't be for the current situation on planet Earth with the COVID stuff. So a lot of it's kind of going under the radar. And that is UFOs, and the new thing now is UAPs. UFO, as many people know, is unidentified flying object, and UAP is unidentified aerial phenomenon. You can go back and you can look at some of my past videos about this subject. Back on July 31st of 2019, I did a video about Area 51. And June 21st of 2019, I did a video on UFOs. Let me start by saying this. Anything that would classify as what we call a UFO or a UAP does not necessarily mean that it's from another planet and there's little green men on board, or women, or whatever, aliens. It means that it's something that's unidentified and, it's in the air. Thousands and thousands of people, actually a couple of million people on planet Earth, have claimed to have seen, been around, or in some cases worked on unidentified flying objects. Some people even claim they were abducted by these flying objects. Throughout the years, our government has kept a tight lid on anything to do with something unidentified flying through the air. A good reason has been because of all the top secret projects that we have done and done with other countries, like with Canada, for instance, and the UK, and our own type classified projects like the Skunt Works, where they built the SR-71, and of course then we had the stealth fighter and the stealth bomber. Technology that we did not want to get in the hands of our enemies. Things that were highly classified and top secret. And a lot of the spottings, when people say, I saw a UFO, were just that. They were military projects that no one had ever seen before. When the stealth fighter, for instance, and the stealth bomber started flying, that freaked out a lot of folks when they saw it for the first time because they didn't know what they were looking at. It did not look like a typical aircraft. You go back to the 1940s, one of the biggest and well-known cases of a UFO was what took place in Roswell, New Mexico. I'm not going to go into all of that, but basically, supposedly, an alien spacecraft crashed and the military went out there after farmers had been to it and seen it and touched it and saw pieces of it and so forth. And the military went and gathered it all up and took it to some base and told everybody not to talk about it. And a press report came out in the newspaper the next day saying that our military had actually captured a UFO. And that actually was put out by a military public affairs officer. And then that went worldwide. Of course, not to the speed it will today because of social media and so forth. But back then, it went worldwide through the ways that we had at that time. The next day, the military came out and said, oh no, it was a weather balloon. And that started a huge back and forth between the U.S. government and every sighting since then, with our government finding ways to say that it's, this is what it was. They saw the light or reflection from the sun on an aircraft or a weather balloon. There was always an explanation for what these sightings were. That was one thing. The other thing that kind of slowed down a lot of the reporting was what would happen if you did report something, especially if you were in the U.S. military. There would be a percentage of people that would call you crazy and would say that you're insane. If you were in aviation, you feared losing your license to fly. If you were in the military, you feared being sent to a shrink, coming off flying duty because you're seeing things from another planet, supposedly. So the government has always kept this tight lid, and because of what would happen to people that actually came out and talked to the news media, in some cases they were told that they can't talk about these things, or when they did, being harassed by government, men in black, on and on. But throughout the years, there have literally been hundreds of thousands of sightings. And finally, those in the UFO community, those that believe that the government has been hiding something all these years, get their day. And that is that through the Freedom of Information Act, our government has allowed actual video footage from military aircraft, most of it taken with the heads-up display system or gun cameras, of our military flying in the air with something that they cannot identify, something that shouldn't be there, or being directed from one area to another to go check out something that's on radar. And they get there, and they have the cameras on, and they don't know what they're seeing. Those videos now, some of them have been released. The reason why they've been released is because a lot of the footage that would not get released was because it was actually classified top secret programs that our government didn't want anyone to know about. But these videos went through the same classification to be unclassified. And because they're not part of the U.S. government, we didn't make this, we didn't design this, and we don't have a clue what the hell it is you're looking at, nor will anyone else let it go out to the public. Release it. And they have. The films that are out right now, and anybody can go check them out yourself. You can go right here on YouTube and look it up. Type in UAP or UFO, and you can see the exact same thing that has, by the way, been on Fox News this year in like the last 2 months. CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, they have all covered this footage of unidentified flying objects, and the footage was captured by military pilots. Most of them were flying F-18 fighter jets for the U.S. Navy, and the footage was captured while out at sea over the ocean. And you can even hear the pilots talking to each other about what are we looking at? What is that? And getting all excited, going, "Oh my gosh, look what it's doing." It's doing things that defy everything we know about aerodynamics. When they would get close enough to it to try and ID it, zip away, zoom, be 2 miles away in a matter of seconds. Nothing that we've ever built can do that. We don't have that type technology. And the human body could not withstand that type of motion. To be able to accelerate from a hover and go 2 or 3 miles in a matter of seconds, it's unheard of. We don't have that. So honestly, our military would like to know what it is, because Lord forbid if another country has developed that type technology, we're way behind the power curve. But the other hand is that if it is from someplace else, another universe, it would be nice to know what it is we're sharing airspace with. So regardless of where you stand on the fence of unidentified flying objects or unidentified aerial phenomena, something is out there. Something is flying around planet Earth. And a lot of these people that have seen things, they're not crazy. Well, some of them are, but in general, it exists. We now know that. We now know that the Pentagon is admitting it. They've even briefed President Trump. You can look that up as well on YouTube. And where he was asked about it in one of the press conferences, and he said basically that yes, he's been briefed, and he doesn't know what it is, doesn't necessarily believe it's aliens, but he's no expert on anything about that. He claims he doesn't know anything about it. I don't know. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. We do know that through the years, astronauts in the Apollo program have come out and talked about things that they've seen that they didn't know what they were while they were out in space. And we've had many airline pilots, civilian pilots of private planes discuss and talk about things that they've encountered while flying. I'm sure there are many others out there that have seen things that they don't want to talk about because they're afraid of how they will be perceived. So with the Pentagon allowing these U.S. Navy F-18 fighter jet film to be released where everybody can see what they're seeing in the heads-up display in the gun camera footage and actually hear the pilots discussing it, literally like freaked out. Wow, what is that? Look what it's doing. It's pretty damn amazing. Now, you don't have to believe in aliens from another planet. I don't know if there's life elsewhere or not. I do believe you'd be pretty foolish to believe that we're the only life form in the universe. And now we know, thanks to NASA, that there are many, many other universes past ours, hundreds of them. And they've identified planets that rotate around a sun similar to the same type distance that we do with ours. So they could be similar to Earth. A lot of this hush-hush, I think, has always been for a couple of things. One, would it panic people? And two, what would it do to faith believers? For instance, if you believe 100% in the Bible and God and Jesus or whatever your religion is, and then all of a sudden you find out that, yes, it's a fact, here they are, we are being visited from another universe, another planet, how would that affect that type of person? Will you think any different? Will it be too much to handle? Because if we ever do have a one-on-one communication with these, whatever this is, it's going to change everything that we know about our existence. For all we know, they could already be here walking around us, being part of our civilization. You look back at the pyramids, and there's no everybody on one sheet of music as to how they built them. There are so many different thoughts out there from archaeologists and the experts as to what they did or how they did it to build these structures back before there was no equipment like we have today. And even today, with the technology we have today, to build what they've done back then would take a very, very long time. And their stuff is precise. And there's a lot of people that believe that aliens from another planet came down here and helped them do that. Maybe they did. I don't know. I wasn't there. I do know that all my life, I've loved aviation. All my life, I've loved NASA. I loved everything to do about space. I grew up with a dad that was a pilot. I started flying at a very young age. I soloed my first airplane at 13. I went on to go into the military, become a flight engineer on a CH-47 Chinook helicopter. I've flown all over the world as an aircrew member. And I've had the privilege of going out to the National Training Center in California with our aircraft. I've been to Area 51. I've been to Nellis Air Force Base. I've been to Edwards Air Force Base. I've been to Groom Lake. I've seen as many other aviators, especially in the military, and we've talked about it as a crew. What is that? Where we've seen something that we don't know what it is. Now, my thought has always been it's some type of a classified top secret military project that's way above anything we're ever supposed to know about. And I don't know that that's not what it was. I don't think at any time that I ever think to myself, oh, they're little green men from another planet. But now that the Pentagon has released this footage, I don't know. Something is out there. And now our U.S. Navy has it videoed doing some pretty wild, impressive things that defy the logics of aerodynamics. And I think that is pretty damn cool. I hope that in my lifetime, we're able to communicate with whatever this is. You know, maybe it's a civilization elsewhere that's developed a drone that can come to planet Earth and they're spying on us. I don't know. I have no clue what they are. And neither does the military nor the Pentagon. At least that's what they're telling us. But the bottom line is, this is kind of going under the radar right now because of the health problem we have on planet Earth with the COVID. And it's not getting the coverage that it deserves. I hope that will change in time. The Pentagon has also allowed, finally, for a lot of these military aviators to come out and talk to the History Channel and these different programs that talk about those type things, ancient aliens and so forth, and allowed them to discuss whatever they want and talk about the things they've witnessed and they've seen. And some of it is very, very interesting. I don't know what the answer is. I do know, and I personally believe that it is foolish to think that out of all the thousands of planets out there and the hundreds of different universes, that we would be the only life form. Are they just like us? Don't know. Are they little green men? Don't know. What I do know, and I do believe from what I've seen with my own eyes and these films that have been released by the military, that something is here. Something is in our airspace, and we don't know what it is. I hope that we one day get the answer to that. How do you feel? Do you believe in unidentified aerial phenomena or UFOs as being from another planet? Or do you think it's all a hoax? Leave your comments below and let me know. Subscribe to the channel. Most of my stuff is about political things, but every now and then I like to go back and talk about this subject because I find it very, very interesting. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, first responders, those in the medical field that are fighting for our health, the president and our country, those angel families and blue and gold star families, those that were without their loved ones. Thank you all. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.